Wow. I myself have a number of questions that I want to ask, but I'm not going to take it away from the crowd. Questions? Mr. Mayor, I'll let you go first.
Thank you. So the court that you were dealing with, was it the ICC, or I sort of suspect what you're going to answer, and I'll ask the follow-up questions that I want to ask twice. How is U.S.'s failure to ratify the ICC treaty and be a signatory helping or hurting our ability, our attorney's ability, our involvement with prosecuting genocide, cases of genocide? Thank you.
Good question. And there were two international tribunals that were set up. It's the first time since Nuremberg and the Japanese tribunal. And it was the UN International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and the UN International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And so we were precursors to the ICC. They set up, I had been there a few years before the ICC was set up. So, you know, the ICC is tricky because, and your specific question is, how does our non-participation affect the prosecution of genocide? And I'm going to say that the international hybrid tribunals continue. And when there are, like Sierra Leone, the tribunal for in Lebanon, there's different international tribunals that are set up at different places in Cambodia. And Cambodia is a good example because that's a hybrid tribunal where they're working on the Cambodian genocide. I can't believe I forgot the Cambodian genocide, excuse me. But when I was talking earlier. But it would be better if the United States was involved in an international court, but there are problems with the International Criminal Court. And that's not a politic answer at all. It's more because I'm a lawyer and I see some of the issues.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
State your name, please.
Hi, my name is Antes. First of all, I want to say thank you for all being here and trying to make this change. That means a lot to our history, and we want to make sure that the history doesn't repeat. And second, I wanted to know why the place was chosen in Pasadena, not any other city, the genocide memorial. Thank you.
It's a good question. And the short answer is because the Pasadena Armenian American community came forward and said, we want to do a memorial in Pasadena. And so the city council member who was first approached, Gene Matsuda, he helped bring together and formalize a board of directors to form a nonprofit. And so it's a fine example of sort of the grassroots coming together and driving an agenda, and then the political leaders responding to the effort. And Pasadena has a very, very long tradition of having a thriving Armenian American community. Police Arnie Malikian, who was the chief of police in Pasadena, has been a long time a resident. His parents were residents of Pasadena. So it's interesting with the diaspora, with the community. People think certain cities, but it's really been thriving throughout all of California. And it just happened that in Pasadena, that thrive gave birth to this memorial, which has now been embraced regionally. Obviously, Montebello is going to continue to be the center of April 24th, and this is not in any way, shape, or form going to try to duplicate Montebello. One thing I left out about the memorial is it's also going to have a high-tech component. When you come up to it, it will be linked electronically to the web page, the official Armenian Genocide Memorial web pages, and you'll be able to learn and interact while you're there. So it's going to be an interactive memorial, as well as a stark remembrance and then the rebirth of the water. So the community came together, said, please do this. The city officials responded. We set up a nonprofit. We're now raising money to construct it by the 100th anniversary.
Thank you. Next question, please. Your name, please.
My name is Garina, and my question is that could you please explain the explanation of genocide? What's the meaning of genocide? Կարող եմ խնդրեմ, որ բացատրեք genocide-ի բացատրությունը, ինչ անշանքում genocide եւ ինչ դեպքում են ասում այդ կոտորածը համարվում է genocide։
Thank you. Gabriel, would you like to take this one in Armenian?
Oh, sure. Genocide, հայերեն բառացիորեն ասում են ցեղասպանություն, ուրեմն Ռաֆայել Լեմկինը 1943 թվականին, որը իրավաբան էր եւ շատ մարդու իրավունքների համար եւ այլն այդպիսի արդեն գործունեություններ, ինքը այդ բառը, այսպես ասած, հնարեց, ինքն է հեղինակ այդ բառի, որը հունարենից է գալի, հունական ծագում ունի genos, որը նշանակում է ցեղ, եւ side կամ side, որը նշանակում է սպանություն։ Այսինքն genocide բառացիորեն նշանակում է ցեղի սպանություն։ Բայց ըստ ՄԱԿ-ի բնութագրման ցեղասպանությունը ոչ միայն ցեղային ոչնչացում է մի ամբողջ տեսակի, այսինքն ռասայական, այլ կարա լինի կրոնական, կարա լինի տարբեր մի որևիցե խումբ, որը մի որոշակի ուրեմն պետական միավորի կողմից ոչնչացման է ենթարկվում կազմակերպված ձևով, այսինքն դա է, բայց բառացիորեն ասացի եւ Ռաֆայել Լեմկինը հենց առաջինը նա ասաց, որ հայերի օրինակը հենց համապատասխանում է այն բացատրությանը, որը ինքը պաստորեն 1943 թվականին ինքը ուրեմն լրիվ կերտեց եւ ներկայացրեց ՄԱԿ-ին եւ գիտեք ՄԱԿ-ը 45 թվականից հետո կազմավորվեց եւ ՄԱԿ-ի առաջին բաներից էր, ամենակարևոր բաներից էր եւ հիմնական նաեւ ՄԱԿ-ի հիմնադրման դրույթներից էր, որ երբևիցե ցեղասպանություն է թույլ չտան, որ ցեղասպանություն տեղի ունենա մարդկության հասցեով։
Next question. Yes, ma'am. State your name, please. We're all recording and documenting this.
My name is Armine. My question, any of you can answer this. Now when we have a genocide resolution already, we were coming to this many years. What is our response as community, as Armenian community apart, and as international community whole? What is our next step? Are we ready for this?
Well, I can answer, I call it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
I'm assuming, I apologize to cut you off, this is a question for the entire panel, so for the sake of time and to be able to absorb information, keep the answers
sure.
A little short.
I would stress more activism, but we have to be activists, but we have to first of all educate ourselves. There are important details we should know. In my opinion, unfortunately, genocide continues today because denial is a form of genocide, and Turkish government is actively denying the Armenian genocide. Additionally, it's also blockading Armenia, which is illegal according to international law, and it's not held responsible for that blockade, illegal blockade of Armenia. I mean, even if Armenia, let's say, for example, has issues with Azerbaijan, a third country, a third party cannot link those problems with its own. So it shows that obviously it's taking the Azeri side, which is in and of itself a violation of international law. So things like this, it is doing more. It's actually training the Azeri army against Armenians. It's arming the Azeri army, and we have to know these details because details are important. We can't just say, April 24, 1915, which is of course the day that the Armenian intellectuals were rounded up and killed off, which is very important and symbolic of the Armenian genocide, which went on until 1923. But that's just a symbol. We have to know that, unfortunately, the Turkish anti-Armenian policy on a state level, starting with denial and, as I said, the blockade and other things, like helping Azeris and so on, and most of other things, are actually the continuation of that genocidal policy. So we have to know that, unfortunately, if we don't take a stand, if we don't become those activists, the Turks are just going to continue doing what they have been doing for many years.
Ms. Mulvaney, Anthony Portenti, would you like to add on to that question?
Well, I think it was an excellent answer, and I think it's constant vigilance, because no matter how, even if you have everything set in, what you think is set in stone today, a resolution passed and everything you need, it will constantly be undercut. And you have to make sure that the education, the textbooks are done. You have to make sure that it's included in curriculums, but you also have to be vigilant. There was just a circumstance where someone from the Holocaust Museum had actually written a letter to the LA Times, or the New York Times, on the 20th, talking about the 20th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide, where a really crucial point in the genocidal plan was undercut. So it was a greatly esteemed institution that had inadvertently undercut the facts of the Rwandan genocide. So it's a constant struggle, and everyone here, you know the facts, but you have to be vigilant, and you have to make sure that you when you read something, if it's incorrect, you have to go back and challenge it, and it's we could never rest on things.
Just adding, I think part of your question is, are we ready? And I think the answer is yes. We're ready for the fight, and we're ready for the victory. And just look at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee vote last week. That was a historic victory. Never happened before. Happened. So that's a victory, but it also means the fight goes on. And so I think we're ready for blow-up. To deal with the victories, but also to continue the vote. And it also underscores the point. It makes a difference who gets elected. You know, Senator Menendez is an advocate, and he was elected as an advocate, and he's making a difference.
Thank you.
Next question. Yes, ma'am. Your name, please.
My name is Karna Mikhailian. I would like to, this question is for Barbara Mulvaney. Could you elaborate a little bit more? I know you answered a little bit, but on an international level, how we can get Armenian genocide to be accepted on in international courts, on an international level, and of course America also. Kind of a little bit more besides the education and curriculum.
Sure.
Thank you.
You know, I think that the path that the Armenian community has taken through the U.S. Senate and through is the right way. As far as international legal paths, there may be paths, and I don't know if it's you may actually know more than I on some of the areas that have been taken, but I think the most important thing is to unite with other groups and to use the commonality of all the genocides, and to make sure that when genocide is discussed, and you'll be heartened to know that when international genocide scholars come together who really work on the curriculum universally, they all talk about the Armenian genocide, and it's accepted as fact. I mean, there's no hesitation whatsoever. and people do understand how difficult it is to have the perpetrator government, like the Turks, accepted. I mean, that doesn't deter from the position in any way of the Armenian genocide. So, you should know that throughout the discussions around the world, when people talk about the genocides, that the Armenian genocide is really foremost in the discussions already. But it's important to remain connected to all the people that have suffered, and to tie all of them together. And because there's so much more power in working together.
If I could jump in. 2 years ago at the Pasadena Jewish Temple, there was a genocide event where they had a 104-year-old survivor of the Armenian genocide at the temple, and they had a discussion of Rwanda, Cambodia, Armenian genocide, and to continue to broaden the coalition. Again, it goes back to the activism question, what do we do? Broadening that coalition and continuing, because the common thread is the horror. And it's touched multiple people. And again, we're lucky here, Adam Schiff, not an Armenian American, but has been one of the significant advocates in Washington to recognize that. We're lucky to have Congressman Schiff be so passionate and be so effective articulating the issues. And I don't know if everybody remembered, last year he spoke on the House floor in Armenian. I think that was the first time a House member had ever given a speech in Armenian on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Wow, this is getting great. I lost track of the sequence of events, but I know Vartan, you've been waiting for a while now. Thank you. State your name, please.
Vartan Garpetian. This question is for our Assemblyman. I never said former, but Assemblyman.
Okay.
Yes, you mentioned that the Turks lobby hard in the hallways, but it doesn't translate into votes on the floor. But my question is, there is a large Turkish community in Southern California and in Orange County, and I was wondering, how do the Assembly people in that area vote on the Armenian issues and the resolution?
In California, typically the Armenian genocide resolution is unanimously passed, regardless, north, south, partisan, nonpartisan. It is something that has united the legislature, and I think it's, it's the right thing to do. But your question is a good one. Is how does grassroots advocacy from the other side affect the discourse? And I will say it's there, but it's not as focused and not as powerful and not as prevalent as the Armenian American advocacy is. It's very effective in what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Sir, in the back.
Hi, my name is Aram Reis. My question is to Ms. Mulvaney. Ms. Mulvaney, you were in Iraq, and I'm sure you witnessed some of the persecution that happened to Christians over there, mostly by Sunni Muslim extremists. And mostly it happened, for example, in the Mosul area where there is a large Christian population. The Musulis, the Sunni Muslim extremists there have long historical affiliation with Turkey. They were one of the people there that, for example, wanted to join Turkey after the First World War. My question is today, if we go back 100 years ago, Turkey was leading the Muslim Sunni charge against Christians, and one of the reasons that Armenians were subjected to genocide was because they were Christians. They shared the same race with the Kurds, but the Kurds were not massacred the Armenians because they were Christians. They were actually the only, let's say, oddball in that region, only Christians. So if we take into perspective today, for example, what's happening in Kesab, again, Sunni extremists are coming from Turkey. So how strong is the argument if we put the religion dimension in this, is that Turkey continues, whether under the Ottoman flag or whether under secular Turkey flag, it's still leading the Muslim Sunni charge to extreme, to persecute Christians in that region. How strong is that argument? It's not to add the ethnic cleansing, but also there is a religious cleansing that still Turkey is leading that charge. Thank you.
Well, I was unfortunately I was in Baghdad for 2 years, and I was there when they slaughtered almost 100 people in a church, and I went over to the Christian endowment the next day and sat there with them and talked to them about what had happened. And it's a horrific situation. And the slaughter that's going on in Iraq is, it really affects everyone. I mean, it affects the Christians have been singled out. The Jews are pretty much gone. The Shias are being killed on a very regular basis, and so are the Sunnis. And so it's pretty much the great abyss there in Iraq. I'm not sure, got over 500,000 people dead since the U.S. intervention. And I'm not sure I can directly address your question, but every time a Christian church is hit in Nigeria, and when it's hit in Zanzibar or Mombasa,